Hello Taurus, my name is Uma. This is your horoscope for the full moon and Mars conjunction in Gemini. Now you must be delicate with me this fortnight because I have a Gemini moon placement. Welcome back, Taurus. Thank you very much for being here with me. It's always lovely to have your company. Now, this lunation, yes, as I said in the intro, is hitting a little personally for me in my particular birth chart. So when we think about the transits, which is what I described to you each fortnight, what's happening directly above our heads, when they traverse or have interaction with our natal placements, they can sometimes bring with them an extra emphasis and an extra intensity in the way that we might feel these things playing out. So for me as a Gemini moon, this full moon, this configuration with the conjunction of Mars, is resting 3 degrees away from my natal placement. So as far as emotional intensity, as far as a sort of feeling of things bubbling up and over, that's how I kind of can see this playing out for me personally. In terms of when we say we feel the energy, I got to say, I can feel it right now. So have a look at your birth chart and see if you have any Gemini placements. See what planets were cast in Gemini the moment that you were born, and there might be some extra emphasis as to how this is playing out for you. I think as a group, as a human species, we can really witness the destructive tendencies of Mars in Gemini. So Mars entered Gemini on the 20th of August of this year, and they won't leave until March of next year. So that's 7 months. That's an unusually long time for Mars to exist in one sign. They're quite quick moving. They like to take 2 years to make a full loop of the zodiac. At this time, at this particular moment, Mars stationed retrograde the 31st of October. So from our perspective, the planet Mars appeared to be going backwards in Gemini, and it won't station direct until the 13th of January of next year, which will be another activation of fuel, of fire. So look to the 13th of January and see what might appear around that time. Mars isn't happy in Gemini. Think about Gemini. Gemini is a conversationalist, right? Gemini represents the twins, the idea of duality, the idea of company as well, and sharing language, sharing information, sharing opinions. All of this is wonderful, and it's why we enjoy our Gemini friends so much, because there is a continual inquisition into facts and figures and understanding and learning and sharing. To have this destructive Mars energy mixed with the conversation of Gemini, it leads to a heightened intensity, heightened stakes. So we can see that quite clearly in the tarot. And I'm going to show you the way that I read the zodiac with tarot is based off the system that the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn put into place, which is actually the school of esoteric thought that Pamela Coleman Smith belonged to, who drew the cards that we know so well from the 1800s. And in that system, each decan, each 10-degree chunk of each sign, has a planet assigned to that too, in the Chaldean order, which is the ancient order of slowest moving to fastest moving planet. Complicated, lots of moving parts. I might make a video about that if you're interested to sort of see it in action. But in tarot, the card that represents Mars in Gemini, where this lunation is taking place, the second decan, 16 degrees, is the Nine of Swords. This is difficult energy to work with. When it comes out in a reading, it definitely is a moment to pause and to attempt to find effective systems of emotional regulation. If we remember that the swords in tarot represent our thoughts, and if we remember that too many thoughts can create severe anxiety or fear or worry, looking back to the past and ruminating, playing over that conversation, Gemini, looking to the future in agony and fear about what's to come next, the other side of Gemini. There's a lot of conflicting information and a lot of repetition that shows up in the Nine of Swords. So in that way, this is the perfect depiction of what we might be feeling with Mars in Gemini at this time. It can be worked with in a positive light too, which is something to remember. You know, these cards are emblems of parts of a cycle, a greater whole. So another bit of advice for anyone that has the Nine of Swords appear in a tarot reading for them is that this moment shall pass, that we're in the thick of it right now, and the only thing that we can do is feel that difficulty and give ourselves plenty of room to rest and to break away. You're very good at that, Taurus. You're very good at a measured level of output, of energetic output. So I wonder if we can relate this energy to your second house, Taurus. This is where this is all playing out in your chart if you're a Taurus rising. The second house is where we develop our value system. It's where we build our financial security. It's how we translate our talents into our finances, our money, and how we can provide for ourselves through our abilities. So I wonder, with Mars being in there for so long, and think about, my mind is instantly cast back to the eclipses that we've just been through in your sign, in your first house, and that tryst between holding on and letting go. So I wonder now, if we look at this lunation, this full moon in Gemini, it's kind of enough as it is. A full moon in Gemini is definitely an intense time of an overactive mind and of options. But with this Mars here and with this Nine of Swords energy here, I can see the tipping point over into some form, that anxiety, that continual repetition of unrelenting thought forms that roll over the mind. So if you've been feeling in some way that you need to reactivate some sense of autonomy over your finances or your value system, or you're been worried about money, this might be a great full moon for you to, and I've said it to everyone, but to hell with that, Part of astrology is to remind us that we are all connected, that we have so much in common, especially during moments of such obvious polarization of opinion, of politics, of forces bigger than us that are willing to subjugate us. At this moment for you, Taurus, it might be a really great thing to remember that in this moment, at this second, at this lunation, commune with that moon and remind yourself that at present you are safe. At this present moment, you can resist the urgency of Mars. You can resist the overwhelming, oppressive nature of Mars in your second house, and you can remind yourself in conversation that we are safe right here, right now. This might be helpful to you, or maybe not. Perhaps this could be showing up for you in a different way as well, Taurus. There might be a real kind of inspiration that's coming to you. Perhaps you're sort of on the way to realizing what it is that you might do next to structure your life around work and finance. Your value system may have gone through a complete revolution, and now what you used to think about as being important is less so. And so this Mars interference might be something that is urging you on to reinvigorate that. I will say that Saturn has station direct, and Saturn is in Aquarius in your 9th house of religious, philosophical, astrological study. So perhaps there's something there too. There's a nice boundary with Saturn in Aquarius, particularly at its particular point, but there is something about a healthy distance that can be found. And also I can see Saturn as being a taskmaster in some way. I wonder if you're on some sort of journey yourself in learning a philosophical language, or learning an ancient system of, perhaps divination and healing. Something spiritual is coming to you that you need Saturn for the framework. And so in that way you can, because there's a trine happening between the air signs, Aquarius and Gemini. Trine, remember, is a holding of hands, a support. So I can almost see this Saturn energy supporting your Mars energy in the second right now, saying, hold up, we're in process. As much as you want to get it all published, get it out there, get it configured, get it on the table, get the bank account open and the cash flowing through, perhaps Saturn's here to remind us that there is a process there. It's funny to say that to you because I know exactly what that feels like, to be like, this is what I do now. Let's do it. Which I think it should be encouraged. And I think that definitely Saturn is there to remind us that there is process to carry out. There is things to learn. So maybe in that way you can give yourself a bit of a break that you are learning. Perhaps, as I see this here, it could be money issues at the moment, Taurus. It could be, it's a frustration with your sense of self, your self-worth, your ability to run a household by your own, or to provide for your family. That could be part of it as well. And in this mixture of that being a practicality, and that being also something that needs a bit of a revolution, a bit of a change. With that Mars there, you're in process. You're absorbing the lessons, absorbing the information, expanding the mind in order to get you to a place of confidence where you can start to share it with others. Remember, the 9th house is about teaching as well as learning. Philosophy, astrology, tarot, all of that stuff. I think that it's really nice for you, Taurus, to remember that at this particular lunation, there might be other folks that are having a bit of a difficult time. I would definitely look at your chart and come to consider if there are any planets in Gemini that might be actively triggered by this lunation and by Mars and its presence there. I would maybe consider those that you love. Look around if that's a language that you are open to sharing with other people, and you investigate your charts together. It might be good to just check in at this time, because on a global sense, we can all feel that fire rising in our throats. There's so much to say that has been suppressed. There's so much that needs to be revealed. There's so many changes in the way that we communicate. Another just off-cuff way to look at Mars in Gemini right now is that the strange dictatorship that has happened to Twitter. I don't have a Twitter. I've never tweeted. I'm not a twit. But that is definitely an avenue of communication, conversation that folks have been enjoying for years now. And there has been some aggressive, arrogant energy come through that has bulldozed that into a space that a lot of people are jumping out. So this is just another example of how this astrology might be playing out in terms of what conversations we're having and what we wish to say and the levels of intensity and aggression attached to that. So to close off this reading, don't yell at yourself about your bank balance or your skill set or your assets just now. Don't get cross with yourself that you're not measuring up to the yardstick that has been presented to us, which is a complete fallacy. It's very privileged for me to say in a country that's so safe, and I do feel provided for as much as that sticks in my craw, as much as to have an experience of pinching pennies and working around the clock to put a roof over our heads, that can be a difficult cross to bear. To say, but I've got such privilege. We must remember that we do, though. We must zoom out at these moments of such intensity, A really good salve is to zoom out and to witness the experience of others on a global level and sit in that feeling of this is completely unjust and unfair and horrific. How can I be of best use? How can I take what I'm learning and meld it and morph it into something that can be of greater use for the group? How can we communicate with freedom as a collective? And I will witness and recognize and be thankful for the privilege that I have to explore those avenues. That's your reading, Taurus. I hope it was all right. We didn't do any intuitive tarot this time, but you know what? I think that I've thrown that out the window for this one. There's too much to discuss in the zodiac. I hope it makes sense. If you'd like a tarot reading, though, do head over to umaruby.com. There's an option there for a witch reading for my return clients only. So it might be a good thing to start off with a birth chart reading so you and I can get acquainted, and then we can move on to a tarot reading from there. I use tarot and astrology always in both forms of reading. It's just a matter of the recipe. But thank you very much for being here with me and liking and subscribing to my videos. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm so grateful for the progress that you've all allowed me to achieve thus far on my journey. I'll be speaking to you in 2 weeks for the new moon in Capricorn. So until then, much love, take care, difficulty with duality, but let's surmount that difficulty together. I love you. Bye.